We got to air it out. Let's air it out. So we got to air it out. Let's air it out. So
how do you say that? Air it out. Air it out.
Air it out.
What is up, football fans everywhere around the world? And welcome to the Air It Out podcast. Did you see that? I mean, anybody like my new announcer voice? No, you don't like it. I don't think you liked it, Juan. It's all good.
I mean, it got my attention.
Well, listen, welcome to the Air It Out podcast. I am your humble host. My name is Avery, and I happen to be the vice president of this phenomenal company called Inside the Hashes that presents this podcast to you all. And being a part of a phenomenal company means you have phenomenal people around you. And I have one phenomenal person on this podcast with me today, and his name is the one and only Juan. Say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody? F Boston, Golden State in 7. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, there you have it, folks. Golden State in 7 tonight is game 1 of the NBA Finals. If you did not know, it's going to be a pretty epic series. I mean, you got the top defensive team in the league versus an offensive team that just looks like they can't be stopped. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting to see.
I just don't want Boston to win anything because,
I agree.
Personally, after they took down my Milwaukee Bucks in the way that they did, friggin' Marcus Smart, the fishy flip-flopper.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I'm a Heat fan, so losing in Game 7 the way that we did was very, very annoying. It hurt, but shout out to Jimmy for taking that shot because that takes a lot of guts for taking that shot right there.
Who are you going for, bro?
I'm going for Golden State as well. I love Steph Curry. I love Klay Thompson. I love the way Draymond Green plays. I love his attitude. And I hate Boston. So there's that. Anyway, this is not the Air It Out basketball podcast. This is the Air It Out football podcast. So let's get into some football talk. So first things first, I actually want to talk to you about something that actually could be applying to the NBA as well. I mean, you look at the Sixers, right? And people speculation with Doc Rivers and what's going to happen with that. I mean, some people are even speculating what's going to happen with Eric Spoelstra after losing to Boston this year. Some people are asking what's going to happen in Dallas. I mean, it seems like they just can't get out of the Western Conference, and you've got somebody who's perennially always in the conversation for MVP. So the question I pose to you when it comes to football is who is on the proverbial hot seat, potentially GMs and head coaches going into the 2022-2023 season. Who's on the hot seat? Who do you say, like, man, if they don't get it done, they're out of there. They got to go.
Personally, for me, I'm going to have to go with the Carolina Panthers' Matt Rule as my guy on the hot seat. Okay. Matt Rule, when he first came from Baylor, his first year was supposed to be awe-inspiring. It was supposed to be a move in the right direction for Carolina back into prominence when it was at the peak of performance during the Cam Newton years. But when you guarantee Sam Darnold's 5th-year contract and he just blows up in your face and you're in a carousel of quarterbacks, which involves PJ Tucker and Cam Newton, a broken Cam Newton nonetheless, you're supposed to be this offensive fixer, this team rebuilder, famous for building up programs like Temple and Baylor back in college. This isn't the NCAA anymore, Matt Rule. This is the NFL. These are grown men with grown men decisions and grown men mindsets. They don't follow that example anymore. Not to mention, a lot of the times, whenever you would watch his press conferences, he would deflect blame to his offensive coordinators and to his position coaches for why the team didn't perform that way. We saw it happen with Joe Brady when he got fired in the middle of the season, and then he brought in Ben McAdoo. And the draft class that they had, it's not bad, but it's not great either. I like the pick they made in the first round with Ikem Ekwonu, a solid tackle on either side of the ball, can shore up a blind side when he needs to. Then you take Matt Corral with your second pick in the 3rd round. I guess you're going for the future there, but Corral always had those character issues coming out from Ole Miss. You basically traded for what is essentially a younger Baker Mayfield in terms of skill sets, in terms of talent, and even maybe slightly more of an attitude problem.
Okay. I can see it. I like Matt Rule. He is actually on my list. So we're in agreement there. Matt Rule has got to kind of get it together here. For me, it's actually 3 coaches that I think potentially could be in the hot seat. I'm going to start with number 3 and work myself up to number 1. Number 3, I'm going to say Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan has got to get it together at this point.
That's a hot take.
I'm just saying, you've got an all-star top 5 defense. You've been to the Super Bowl now once. You've gotten to the playoffs and made runs twice now in your tenure there. You've got like I said, a Super Bowl ready defense. You've got a phenomenal offensive player in Deebo Samuel, with a great, if not the greatest, tight end in George Kittle. A really good offensive line. Your running game is extremely solid. You saw a rookie last year go over 1,000 yards. There's literally just one question, and it's the quarterback situation. And it's like, if that's the go ahead.
It's sort of what you're saying with the quarterback situation. Like, I get where you're going with it. The thing is,
it's tough. It's tough.
It's also at the same time, it's rumored Trey Lance isn't even the quarterback Shanahan wanted.
And so understood. But you were able to get Matt Ryan to a Super Bowl. You were able to get Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl. So I believe with the skill set and the talent that he has, you can get Trey Lance to a Super Bowl if he's one of those guys who doesn't turn the ball over, which, again, in his offense, you shouldn't, right? So, and that's why I say he's number 3 for me, because he's not the sole reason they're losing. But you get to the Super Bowl, and remember the last 2 Super Bowls that he's been to, he did not run the ball at the time when he should have. Those were his calls. He runs the offense. So it makes me question, are you on the hot seat at this point, sir?
Well, let me ask you this, though. Would John Lynch go with him? Because they both came in together. Do they go out?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And because John Lynch has been shown that he is the second coming of Ozzie Newsome. Like, his drafting has been absolutely phenomenal.
We're not even out of the offseason, and you're already dropping these hot takes?
Listen, it's Hot Take Thursday, okay? That's all I'm saying.
Damn it, it's Hot Take Thursday. Yes, it is.
Listen, that's all I'm saying. So, for me, it's Kyle Shanahan. Number 2, I'm going to go with John Harbaugh. At this point, I think it's a situation where they're questioning.
Out here to hear
listen,
you better be.
Listen.
No.
I'm just saying. No. I think there's a question. Okay. I think there's a question because there were rumors about it last year, right? There were rumors about it last year when they missed the playoffs. So there were questions about whether or not the team had, or the locker room, he didn't have the locker room anymore and different things like that. People are starting to see, okay, it looks like Lamar Jackson is kind of plateauing at this point. Now, we know he got injured and missed the last 8 games of the season. So with that being said, we can't hold too much again, but there's the question, right? And so is he going to be able to get this team over the hump, right? Now, especially when you bring in Deshaun Watson into this division, and now that the Steelers are moving on, obviously, for Big Ben, but they bring in
the rides on top of that. Yeah.
Exactly. The Bengals are playing. So it begs the question, is John Harbaugh on the hot seat? Can he get this team that is, again, a team that has arguably the best secondary in the league and definitely a top 5 defense in the league, one of the best offensive lines in the league, the best running game and threat in the league? Can you get these guys? Good.
I will argue. You can't, like, Harbaugh's too important of a piece of that organization for them to openly fire the next season. He is not under any pressure, in my opinion, because number one, the Ravens draft phenomenally for him to use. He knows how to use his weapons very well enough. And 2, the guy's adaptable with his system no matter who's under center, all right? Albeit it's been mostly mobile quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, RG3. I forget the name of the other guy that played, but nevertheless.
Huntley.
And Tyler Huntley. Nevertheless, if he has to transition to a pass-first offense just to try to get an advantage going forward, I think he has the capability to do so. He's brought Lamar Jackson to an MVP level. When most people thought he should have been a wide receiver or a running back, he made him into what a dual threat quarterback is supposed to look like in this league. So I got
sure. Some people liken that to Greg Roman as more so than they liken it to John Harbaugh. So that's why I say I don't believe he should be, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. And then number 3, and this one is kind of a stretch, but it's not a stretch at the same time. I'm only saying number 3 because of the weapons, because of the defense, and because of the division. At this point, there was one question. There is no longer this question. So Kevin Stefanski, if you do not get it done this year, I believe you may be on the hot seat, sir. You've got Deshaun Watson. You've got Amari Cooper. You've got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt back there. You've got a pretty good offensive line, a phenomenal defense. At this point, if you don't at least win a playoff game, and that's what I say when I say he needs to at least win a playoff
fan base, a spurned quarterback, and just a divide in public opinion across the NFL landscape.
But you can't deny the talent that's there. You can't deny the talent. So you have to at least win the playoff.
Possibility Deshaun Watson does miss this season. There were,
Yes.
I saw on Twitter that there were rumors in the organization that they are
now that's the caveat.
Waiting to see what the decision is, and Deshaun Watson could miss the entire season.
Now that's the caveat. If Deshaun Watson misses a season, you get yourself another season. But if Deshaun Watson plays, let's say he's suspended for 4 games, I think even that can potentially get you another season. But if he plays the entire season and you don't at least, at the very minimum, win a playoff game, I think you're going to be on the hot seat.
Honorable mention, if I may. I'm surprised you didn't bring this up. Pete Carroll, I think, deserves to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
think he was the obvious one.
It was nothing short of a miracle about what Pete Carroll was able to pull off with a one-handed Russell Wilson. That excuse is gone now. You have Geno Smith and Drew Lock as your starting quarterbacks. Me being a Jets fan, I've seen what Geno Smith is capable, like firsthand. The dude is not that guy. He's not that guy. All right. Not to mention, he's always Pete Carroll's always developed this reputation of being a college coach mentality in a grown man's game. He had feuds with Earl Thomas, Russell Wilson, and Richard Sherman, 3 cornerstone players of your franchise, and he turned them all away near the end of it. Not to mention, you are trying to establish a running game in a system that has 2-star wide receivers, and you're not using them to your advantage, and you're still thinking that you're in the Legion of Boom era when that era has far been over.
And here's the last person I will say that should be on the hot seat, but we know he won't be. Mike McCarthy. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. Hello, Mother. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining on. Like I said, Mike McCarthy should absolutely be on the hot seat. But listen, we're going to talk about something else. And what I want to talk about, or how I want to preface this, is we saw some amazing football last year. I mean, the playoffs were they were amazing. And we saw not just the playoffs be phenomenal, we saw rookies being impactful in these said playoffs. So my question to you is, which rookie from this past season is going to have a sophomore breakout season? Those guys who may have not been a Micah Parsons or different things like that, but we saw glimpses of, wow, this guy can be really, really special. So that's my question to you. Who do you think is going to have a breakout sophomore season?
Well, before I give you the list of the future stars, I just want to say goodbye to 3 former stars. Frank Gore, retiring as a 49er. Alex Mack, retiring as a 49er. And Ryan Fitzmagic, retiring as God knows what. But three true stars of the game, Mack being a premier center for the longest time with Cleveland, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Frank Gore, the indisputable, the
indestructible.
Indestructible, but the inconvenient truth is what he was called by Rich Eisen. Because no matter what you did to try to stop it, he was always coming. And then Fitzmagic / Fitztragic. At least 9 NFL franchises know the glamour and the pain that Ryan Fitzpatrick brought to the game. So thank you for your service, Mr. Beardface.
Yes.
Now to my breakout stars. I got 3 in mind. I'm going to try to be as quick about them as possible. Number 3 is Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Detroit Lions. He got hot near the end of the year last year. He didn't break more than 70 yards in the first 11 weeks, but then from weeks 12 to 18, 51 catches, 560 yards, 6 total touchdowns, and 2 100-plus receiving games in his last 2 games of the season. And now that he has DJ Chark on the other side of it, it's going to take a lot more pressure off him to perform in that wide receiver core. It's just a matter of whether or not Jared Goff can deliver the passes. That's my third. Number 2, Joe Tryon of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 32nd overall pick. No one really knew what to make of him. He was kind of this raw, tall, heavy talent with good athleticism, but didn't seem to have sound fundamentals coming into it. And he played mostly a rotational role with JPP and Shaq Barrett as an outside linebacker. But now that JPP is gone, it fills in the gap for Joe Tryon to take that starting center job as a first-round pick, albeit a late first-round pick. He had 4 sacks in last year, 29 tackles, and 3 pass deflections. A pretty decent rookie year. I think he can step it up. I'll stake a hot take on this. He'll be a Pro Bowler this year. And then number 1, gonna be my home court bias baby, Mr. Zach Hanalole Wilson. I'm seeing going to improve, not marginally greatly, but just enough to show that he is the franchise quarterback for this team. I get it. There were doubts about his accuracy. There were doubts about his decision making. Although you do have to credit to the fact that most of his good weapons last year were injured. He was playing with second and third stringers. He's now in year 2 of the Shanahan system. Robert Saleh has proven to be a viable head coach. And not to mention, we got beefy Zach Wilson putting 20 pounds of muscle on, my dude. Now, granted, the first games of the season look brutal. Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Miami, the Packers, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Bills, just to start off the slate. So it's not looking great, but so long as I see actual progress from Zach Wilson this year, I'm a happy Jets fan.
I guess we will see. I love the confidence. I do. I love the confidence. For what I saw last year, he's absolutely hot garbage. But I'm not going to say that he will continue to be hot garbage for the rest of his NFL career. But he is currently absolute trash truck juice. So with that being said, I'm going to move into my sophomores. I'm going to go in order. I've got 3 as well. And so I'm going to go in order. And again, I'm going to go 3 to 1. So number 3, I think number 3, who's going to have a breakout season. He actually did not have a bad rookie season, but I think with the additions on the team, he's going to have a lot more opportunity to excel, and that is Devante Smith. I think Devante Smith, now adding in A.J. Brown on the other side, I think that bodes well for him because he will see less he will definitely see less of number 1 corner coverage, which will allow him to potentially torch second on the draft list, depth chart. Corners, and so I think he potentially can have a breakout season just because of that. Number 2, I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, now that Urban Meyer is gone, now that he's got a fresh new head coach and different things like that, they've gotten some weapons, and Travis Etienne is coming back off of season-ending injury last year, so he'll have some help in that regard as well. And they've got obviously chemistry there, right? So I think Trevor Lawrence takes a step forward in his sophomore season. Most quarterbacks typically have a sophomore slump. I think he actually takes a sophomore leap in his second season. And then number 1, I'm going to say Kadarius Toney. I think Kadarius Toney has proven that his feet belong in the NFL. And I don't think he's going to be, considered a top 5 wide receiver, maybe not even top 10. But I do think that with his footwork and with the trust that has been garnished because of what he can do with the ball in his hands, I think they're going to start to game plan to get him the ball in his hands a little bit more, take some pressure off of Danny Dimes, take some pressure off of Saquon Barkley, and not have to always run because those screens and those wide receiver screens and different things like that, those in effect can be part of the running game in and of itself. And he's one of those guys. He can take He can take it 70 yards, a 2-yard catch, and take it 70 yards just with his breakaway speed and what he does with the ball after the catch. So I think Kadarius Toney will have a breakout sophomore season. We're going to see some really, really big highlights from the guy.
I'll say this. You got Elijah Moore season. I'll take that, Chris. I'll take that. I will say though, similar to what you said about Zach Wilson, I'm going to say about Kadarius Toney, Garbaggio, not in terms of talent or inability. He is a great player and a great talent. It's all what's up in here, though.
For sure.
The dude has an attitude problem.
For sure.
And
absolutely
is not gelling with this Giants coaching staff at the beginning of the season. I think things have calmed down, but we'll wait till training camp until we have a final decision.
We shall see. It'll be very, very interesting to see. Now, I want to shift a little bit here. And it's going to get a little bit somber, but it does need to be addressed. Okay. We had 2 recent passings of in the NFL. And it's saddening. One of these guys was one of my absolute favorites when he played. He still is one of my favorites all time. And I'm actually not sure how to feel about it. A friend of mine put it in the chat and that we're in, and it took me a while to respond because I'm like, man, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm referring to Marion Barber, and now I'm gapping his name.
Jeff Gladney.
Jeff Gladney, thank you so much. But I want to send my condolences out to both of those families, all the franchises that were privy to have them on their team, and anyone and everyone who's affected by the losses of those 2 players. It's really, really tough when you hear things like that. We still don't have details much on Marion Barber's situation, other than he was found in his apartment, and then he was deceased. So. Much respect to them, RIP to them, and like I said, praying for their families. I say all that to say Marion Barber was the unsung, I believe he was the unsung MVP of the NFL. I think anybody who watched this man play said, I would love to have this guy on my team. He spent, I believe, 6 years in Dallas and 1 in Chicago, and he was just brutal. Just brutal. He did not run out of bounds. He did not slide. He went full force, full weight every single down. His name is Marion the Barbarian. Yes, one of the best nicknames in football. Marion the Barbarian, and he ran like a barbarian. His barbarian style was just absolutely phenomenal. And we had a recent running back who retired, who reminded me so much of him in beast mode, Marshawn Lynch. But very similar running styles. But again, just hard-nosed, tough, everything you want in a running back. So he was the unsung MVP. Juan, do you want to give your thoughts on the passing of Jeff Gladney and Marion Barber?
You summed up a lot about Marion. The only thing I can say is that watching the highlight reel of him shedding 8 tackles in the end zone, that's physical specimen. That's pure football that you see. That's a moment that gets fans invested in this game.
Yeah.
So rest in peace to a legendary. As for Jeff Gladney, it's similar to the Dwayne Haskins situation, a life taken in a second opportunity, albeit Dwayne Haskins was with turmoil in Washington and then found a second chance in the Steelers system, and just an unfortunate tragedy in Florida in a traffic incident. And then Jeff Gladney, a man who was a first-round pick with the Minnesota Vikings, and then gets into this legal trouble that he is then found innocent of, and finds a second chance down in the desert in Arizona, only to be taken by a similar traffic incident. It's heartbreaking to see young men with potential and with an opportunity to get the most out of their second chance just taken away from them. It's truly heart-wrenching.
Yes, really, really is, man. It's sad. It's a sad situation, but like I said, I just want to give condolences and prayers to those families and all who were affected by the losses. But I'm pretty sure in their lives, the lives of people around them, and like I said, specifically for Marion, unsung MVPs, and it's hard to transition from topics like that. But this is the Air It Out Football Podcast, and we don't want to end on a somber note. So let's try to kick it up here and transition. So speaking of unsung MVPs, I want to ask you, because this is way too early. It's way too early. We haven't had even training camp yet. But the last 2 years, Aaron Rodgers back to back. So I got to ask you, who do you think? Way too early MVP predictions right now. Way too early. But who, if you had to take a guess, who's getting MVP this year?
I'll give you my top three. First off, shout out to all the Eagles fans out there because I'm pulling Jalen Hurts in this conversation. Man,
Wow.
when you have nearly 4,000 total yards, almost 800 of them rushing last year, not to mention like keeping an Eagles team afloat when it shouldn't have been in the playoff conversation in the first place, that to me screams that there's MVP potential right there. And I'm sick and tired of Phillies fans saying Jalen Hurts is not the answer. He is the answer now that he is surrounded by good weapons and a great defense. All right. Just to see what Nick Sirianni can do, I'll leave it up to him to make the decisions. Number two, Mr. Joey B, Mr. Joe Burrow up in Cincinnati. How dare you take a team to the Super Bowl in your second try on a 10-7 record and getting sacked, being one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL? How dare you, sir? You were not supposed to be this good, and yet you somehow did it. So I'm expecting even greater things from you, especially now that you have that offensive line showed up. And number one, this is more for your benefit, Avery, than anything else, but I still do believe it. Mr. Matt Ryan, Mr. Matty Ice of the Indianapolis Colts, still serviceable, nearly 4,000 yards passing last year on a team that was devoid of talent in Atlanta. Now he has an infusion of it in Indianapolis with a much better defense and even better rushing game and good receiving weapons. I'm expecting nothing if not an AFC conference appearance by this Colts team with Matt Ryan at the helm.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So we actually have the same guy at number one. So I'm not even going to touch on Matt Ryan. We have the same guy at number one for all the reasons you just laid out, plus the offensive line, top 10 defense, all of those different things. And that I honestly, and I'm gonna drop a hot take here right now. Hot take Thursday. Matt Ryan will win the Super Bowl this year. Okay, we've seen it back-to-back years. Okay, we've seen it back-to-back years. Jalen Hurts isn't bad, but last season it was more about Sirianni adjusting the offense than it was about Hurts carrying his offense.
And then you unlock the offense, Chris.
True.
The offense.
Listen, you heard it here first, okay? Matt Ryan to the Super Bowl, and they win. The last 2 years, we've seen veteran quarterbacks switch teams, go to the Super Bowl, and win. I believe we're going to see it 3 times in a row, okay? The trend continues. Matt Ryan for president, all right? Number 2. MVP candidate, I'm going to say Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen has a really, really bad stain in his mouth from that loss to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Is that dark horse, though? I mean, it's kind of expected.
Not really a dark horse, but I mean, you just think about it. Like, they literally were a coin flip away from potentially being in the Super Bowl themselves, because I believe they would have beat Cincy. Anyway, I'm going to go with Josh Allen at number 2. Yeah, in the NFC, not the AFC. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Matt Ryan. Anywho, and then number 3. Number 3, I'm going to give it to none other than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, I believe, has everything he needs to be an MVP this year. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay? Justin Herbert. That's it. And speaking of it being it, it's a short show, okay? We're going to actually end the podcast here, We're going to end it. Why not? You know what I'm saying? I think we're good. Matt Ryan got some love on this podcast and different things like that. I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado,
I give up to your quarterback. You give hate to mine.
Well, he's not my quarterback anymore. But anyway, listen, don't forget to follow us on all your social media platforms, Inside the Hashes on Instagram and on Facebook, Inside Hashes on Twitter, and please check out the website www.insidethehashes.com. Everything you need, literally, gaming, podcast, all of that stuff, and then go to YouTube, hit the like button, hit the notification button, and please subscribe, and don't forget. Share it. Get it out there. Okay. All right. Without further ado, this is the Air It Out podcast. Pop, what is up? Thank you for joining on. This is the Air It Out podcast. That guy, his name is Juan. Me, my name is Avery. Again, this is the Air It Out, and it's brought to you by Inside the Hashes. Now, Matt Ryan, he's going to get to the Super Bowl only and if only he decides not to pat the ball. He just got to stop patting the ball.